Whiskey Jason here, whiskey from the viewpoint of an American over here in Germany, often reviewing rare and exotic whiskeys. Once again, I'm not really sure how rare and exotic this is. This is George Dickel. This is 13 years of age. This is their Bottled and Bond #4 product, and it was distilled in the fall of 2008. So George Dickel, Tennessee Bottled and Bond Whiskey from Cascade Hollow Distillery. Now, I had the privilege in August of 2024 to be at the distillery. Wonderful place. 2 years before that, I was there, but it was a Sunday afternoon, and the gift shop was closed, and no tours were given. But now I finally made it. It was fabulous. Thoroughly enjoyed it. Very, very nice place to be. Whiskybase number, at least over here, is 241042. Now, the price in America, $45. In Europe, at least in Germany at the moment, I did a bottle share for $99.90, so 100 euros for this. And I have a shop that actually is selling at the moment for 120. Now, I'm a little confused at the moment still about the George Dickel Bottled and Bond. All right, so we have the first Bottled and Bond, George Dickel, that had a vintage of 2005, and it was bottled 2019. In the same year, there was an 11-year-old product that was distilled 2008 and bottled 2019. And in the year 2020, 1 year later, we had a 11-year-old product again that was distilled in 2008. But then we go and we skip a whole year. That was probably the COVID year. And we have here in 2021, we have a 13-year-old product again that was distilled 2007. And then last but not least, #4, even though there's 5 Bottled and Bonds products, which I just don't get. #4, even though there's 5, the last one was from 2008, and it was bottled 2022. I don't get Diageo sometimes. Now, Nicole Austin has been at the George Dickel Distillery for a few years now. She has done fabulous work. Thank you very much for the Bottled and Bond. Thank you very much for the Tennessee Bourbon 8-year-old. Thank you very much for what we still have never seen over here is the Moonlight series. There have been, I was there, and there will now be rye made at the distillery one day, and not just sourced from MGP. What I think is really great about Bottled and Bond is you need to put the place it was distilled and the place it was bottled. And just to show how confusing Diageo can be sometimes, Diageo owns George Dickel. It says on the back here, distilled and aged in Cascade Hollow, Tullahoma, Tennessee, TN-2. Bottled in Plainville, Illinois. So that's IL with another number behind it. Too small for my old eyes to read. And so they tankered this stuff up to Illinois, and then they bottled it there. So there is no real bottling facility at the George Dickel Distillery. At least when I was there, I did not see any, and I have no ideas if there are plans to do that. So every other product, you don't need to put it on the label where it's bottled unless it's Bottled and Bond. And so that transparency, there is no other law for whiskey in the world. I'm going to really, really emphasize this, in the world that is so transparent as Bottled and Bond. The only thing that some geeks will go, but I don't like, it has to be 50%. It can't be 48, it can't be 68. It has to be 50%. But we know it's made within 1 6-month window. It's either the fall or the spring distilling season of a year. You have to put the year on there. It has to tell the year that it was bottled. And you have to tell us where it was actually made and where it was bottled. Has to be one distiller and minimum 4 years and all these other things. There is no other legal framework for whiskey that is so detailed, so specific as our Bottled and Bond Act is in America from 1897. So back then they knew what they were doing. Maybe we've screwed things up since then. I don't know. I'm going to actually compare this to, just because I have this bottle here, Four Roses. Now, why Four Roses single barrel? Is it Bottled and Bond? No. It can be from many different years. It's a no age statement. This is 13 years of age. This is 50% alcohol. This is 50% alcohol. I can still get this over here for 34 euros. That means I can literally get 3 of these for the price of this. And that's the comparison. What would I prefer? Would I prefer, and I know even before COVID, Four Roses single barrels was cheaper in Europe than it is in America, which makes little sense, but that's the way things are. And so this is double the price over here. This is cheaper than over there. Some things just do not add up, at least not in my book. All right, so spoiler alert. I like Four Roses single barrel. This is an old bottle. There was actually, this is like a leather little ream around here. Now they just print a little sticker and stick it to it. There's a guy in Germany. He had about 28 bottles of bourbon. I don't know if it was for health reasons, that's what he said, but his wife was very, very happy when the bottles left their house, which I picked up. He had to give up his bourbon collection. So he sent me the pictures. I added everything up and said, well, new price would have been about this. Open, I would be willing to pay that. And then I actually deducted a little bit more. We met in the middle. And I said, hey, since you're not going to send it, I'm actually going to drive by. It was a 60-mile detour to pick up those 28 bottles. We're going to have that price. It was like, okay, no problem. I can take everything off his hands. And this was one of the bottles. So, ta-da! A nice little story there. So if you're in Germany and you have to give up your collection, maybe you're a soldier that's going back to the States, done that before, you cannot have open bottles in the container, contact WhiskyJason at gmail.com and I might make you a deal. All right, and you might actually be able to get rid of your open bottles, and I might have a field day and do bottle shares and make many people in Germany happy with things I normally can't get. At least that's the that's the theory here. All right, on the nose. Every single time, I'm not sure if I get the Fred Flintstone chewing vitamins. I had those as kids as well. Every single time I was at my grandmother's place, she always gave us the Fred Flintstone vitamins to chew on and so on. This is a little bit of wild cherry, a little bit of honey, a little bit of wood spice, and pecan nuts. This is good. It's not wow, but it's good. Over here, this is brown sugar and darker, richer, more caramel. Special yeast. I don't really know much about the yeast George Dickel is using. I've never actually looked that up. Have they anywhere mentioned their yeast? All right. So if you actually go back, just a tiny little excursus here, George Dickel himself didn't distill. He was a merchant. All right. It says crafted by Dickel. He blended whiskeys together is what he did. All right, and sorry to say all this, and if you go to George Dickel, they tell a nice little story, but if you look at the historical documents, he was not the distiller. He bought the whiskey from Cascade Hollow. He later invested in the company that later became the owner of Cascade Hollow Distillers, but George Dickel himself wasn't the master distiller or distiller at all. And, yeah, and so there's no history of him saying, oh, this is the yeast source that we've used for 200 plus years now. All right. Cheers. You do notice a little bit of an astringency. Has to do with age, 13 years in a new charred oak barrel. There is a little heat there with a 50% that I was not expecting. I'm going to go for, instead of wild cherry, black cherry. A little bit more of cotton candy type of sugar, powder sugar, pecan, wood spice, and a honey, a rich good honey, like from the honey bear. Now, the honey bear is not a rich, good honey, but it's a cheap honey. Honey from the honey bear. Nice. This is a B minus C plus whiskey. It's not a wow moment. Now, and if I were in the States and I saw this bottle for $45, I would buy it. I would buy 2 of them maybe and just keep them. I don't know when we're going to have the next 13-year-old Bond Dickel product. Nicole Austin's changing so much, and there hasn't been anything for the last 2 years that have hit the market, at least not in the States. It took 2 years for this bottle to somehow make it over to Germany. How? I don't know. Value for money in America, C to C plus. Over here, C minus to D plus. It's not worth 100 euros. At least not on my book. It's definitely not worth 120 euros. Now, this is a unique bottle. How many bottles of Dickel juice have you seen out there that have a 13-year-old age statement on there? Not that many. Now, I did try the 18-year-old Dickel at the distillery. I wasn't wowed by that either. So, my question of the day is, what is your favorite Dickel juice? Now, please correct me if I'm wrong, but according to my understanding, since Nicole Austin has been there, George Dickel doesn't actually sell casks anymore to independent bottlers, to brokers, and so on. She's keeping it there. So that means if you have a Tennessee whiskey, it's definitely not going to be from Brown-Forman. It's not going to be from Jack Daniels. If it's under 7 years of age, it's probably not going to be a George Dickel juice. Now there's 13 and 12 and 10 and 15 and all these interesting George Dickel barrels out there that are being filled slowly but surely. But the market for George Dickel juice has basically dried up. And if you have anything from Tennessee that does not tell you what distillery it's from, and it's less than 7 years of age, the chances are very, very high that it's going to be Tennessee Distilling Company from Columbia, Tennessee. It's not going to be Dickel juice like it used to be 10 years ago. Just as a comparison for me and for you, the Four Roses single barrel, this one, this is from Warehouse KE, and it's barrel 64-57, is it an N? I don't know. All right. I'm not good at reading the labels of the Four Roses yet. This is more my wheelhouse. It has a darker, richer wood moment, less burn, more brown sugars, no astringency like over here. I would rather have one bottle of this to drink than I would one bottle of this. Now, this costs 100 euros and this is 34 euros. 3 of these for 1 of these. I know it doesn't make sense. But I really enjoy Four Roses, and I have never been the biggest fan of the Dickel juice. So just to go back and then please tell me your favorite George Dickel bottling. The 12 and the 8 are being renamed. The rye slowly being discontinued. They're making their own rye now. There's a lot of changes happening in the Dickel portfolio at the moment. And most of those changes are due to Nicole Austin. Thank you, Nicole, for making these changes. It's great. All right. Yes, I do prefer this. Shoot me. Unsubscribe. Write a nasty comment. Please interact. WhiskyJason here, whiskey from the viewpoint of an American over here in Germany, often reviewing rare and exotic whiskeys. Thank you very much for watching, liking, and subscribing. Bye-bye.